Let's go to the AFC North here, where Lamar Jackson will have a new head coach for the first time in his professional career in Jesse Minter. Minter brings in former Bears OC Declan Doyle with the hopes of guiding Jackson and the Ravens to the Super Bowl, of course. Meanwhile, maybe consistency is the key in Cincinnati. Despite missing the playoffs for the third straight season, Zach Taylor remains the man in charge. Not much changing around Joe Burrow either, who at times this season made comments made us all think he might be in for an early retirement. Update on that. He was asked at the Pro Bowl last night if he's happy in Cincinnati, and he said he is. But when it comes to these two quarterbacks, who do we think is in a better position? Is it Joe Burrow with the consistency, or is it now Lamar Jackson in a new environment? Cam Jordan's back here with us.
I mean, they talk about bringing a new coach. Give Lamar Jackson a clean slate. They bring in a new offensive line coach. That's the important part. Guy they poached from Atlanta. You talk about Dwayne Linford, guy who has been an offensive line coach before. This is important. You know, sometimes you see guys, create their staffs about who they know, what they know. No, he went to go get best product. And so if you got an O-line that can protect Lamar, you know how dangerous he can be.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say let's wait and see what 29-year-old Declan Doyle can do with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to look at this as saying, oh, you're choosing Joe Burrow over Lamar, and the Ravens are better than the Bengals. I was at the Pro Bowl last night. Roll your eyes if you want. He and Chase and Higgins, those guys are as thick as thieves, and those are best friends, and they're going back on the field, and they're going to keep it going, and Joe Burrow does not miss a step from what he's had. Lamar, it's a big year for Lamar, and it's not just what can everyone do around Lamar. It's, hey, Lamar, now people are looking at you because he's older than his offensive coordinator. That's wild.
Yeah.
And it's a new head coach, and it's like, all right, we got rid of Harbaugh, we got rid of Monk, and Lamar, it's on you. Who's in a better situation? Well, time will tell. But who's in a more comfortable situation? Who's in a situation where, like, they know what they're looking at and they can know they can pick it up? It's clearly Burrow, who's going to be with the same guys, same coaches. And let's try to run it back and do it again.
I think you have to answer the question via culture. And I think the Ravens have a better culture than Cincinnati does. I don't trust Zach Taylor. I don't trust that defense. Burrow's great, and he's hurt a lot, but he's great, and we know the two receivers. Last year, they didn't, even when he came back, they didn't play great. Lamar was wonderful against Pittsburgh. They should have won that game against the Steelers. The kid missed a field goal. Yep. They would have been in the playoffs. I think Minter is going to be a good coach. Zay Flowers is good. I tell you, we saw Jim Brown against Green Bay. We talked about that, where Henry ran in Lambeau. He's got plenty left.
Saturday night game.
Yeah, so I think, to me, the answer isn't about the quarterbacks. I think it's about an organization. And I trust the Ravens more than Cincinnati, so I'll say
But
Lamar.
you might not trust Zach Taylor, but it seems like Joe Burrow and company do. Or trust me, he would have had a say in the situation, no? What's going on?
There is no one that should trust Zach Taylor, which is why I'm looking at Peter. What's wrong with you?
Let's go.
What's wrong with you? Joe Burrow is the only reason Zach Taylor has a head coaching job. Now, I'm not going to sit up there and tell you the man deserves to be unemployed, that he doesn't deserve to be in football, that he doesn't know anything about football. But I do believe there has been a dereliction of duty spanning years. And I've been on the record, Cam, you haven't heard this. You haven't seen me say it to your face. But I'll say it with you right here, right now. On numerous occasions, I've been on national television, seriously, not joking, calling for an investigation into what the hell is Zach Taylor and his staff doing in the offseason. Because for the first 2 games of the season, for 6 years, they were 1-12. You're never ready to play come the start of the season. This year was an aberration. But the previous 6 years, 1-11 in those 12 games, weeks 1 and 2. They're never ready to play at the start. What the hell are you doing in training camp, preseason, and everything? What the hell are you doing? You're clearly not doing your job, okay? So, but you got an offense because it's Joe Burrow and how great he is. It's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and how great they are. But your defense, it was ranked 30th. There are 32 teams in the National Football League. They were 30th in points allowed. In points allowed. They were 31st in yards allowed, okay? They had the 30th, they had the worst rushing defense in the National Football League, and they were 26th against the pass. So in other words, I'm riding the coattails of Joe Burrow and that offense to relevance, not prominence, relevance. Because there's the only reason we talk about the Bengals is because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and what they can do offensively. Defensively, they were trash. They were bad, okay? And Zach Taylor and his staff didn't do a damn thing to alleviate that concern. Of course, the answer to this question is Lamar Jackson, because you got an owner in Bisciotti, you got a GM in DaCosta, and you got now a new coach and mentor who are giving you an infusion of new energy. Lamar Jackson just turned 39. Obviously, rushing attempts, rushing yards from the quarterback position, the lowest of his career last year, primarily due to the myriad of injuries he suffered from. But in the end, you look at him, you look at King Henry, and you say to yourself, Baltimore's defense wasn't what it was in the past. Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and those boys were just a shame. That's why he saw them down at Miami watching college football rather than Baltimore watching pro football, because the defense was so damn embarrassing. But in the end, that was an aberration. In Cincinnati, you're looking at it, and it's, my God. They were so bad, there were people on their squad that should have hid their name. They should have put duct tape over the name on the back of their jerseys so nobody would know they were playing defense for the Cincinnati Bengals. And Zach Taylor, that is a man that is lucky because, in my opinion, he should have lost his damn job. They should have had Joe Brady as the new head coach in Cincinnati instead of in Buffalo because of his history with Joe Burrow and changed things that way. But because of money, they didn't want to make any damn changes, and as a result, you kept with the same old mediocre nonsense, which tells me more the same is coming next year.
Now, I will say Cincinnati's defense did get better as the year went on.
Yeah, when the games didn't matter because the season was over.
True, but at least we saw an improvement similar to what we saw with the Ravens. But let's zoom in on the quarterbacks, because being in the Super Bowl is the be-all, end-all. The only one that's been there of the three we talk about a lot, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow, is Joe Burrow. Of these three, with the situations they're in next year, which has a better shot at getting to the Super Bowl? Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson.
I mean, Joe Burrow has proven he can get to the Super Bowl. I would love to see Lamar Jackson get to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen, if I thought anything, I thought this was the year.
Yeah, of course.
I said,
they're all out.
All these guys are out. It's his time. And he proved what I thought about him. He plays excellent during season. He shows up. He is Superman. And at the same time, he can't win those big games right now. Again, he can always switch up the narrative years from now to next year, whatever that is. But right now, I'm turning around and I'm looking at Lamar Jackson. Hey, you've got Zay Flowers now. You've got Kyle Hamilton now. You've got, you got a D-line with John Jenkins in there. Let's draft you an edge. You have, Marlon Humphreys. You have these players. You have the ability. For me, Lamar Jackson, Super Bowl.
I'll ask you this,
soon.
because you've been on a staff where you fired the head coach and there's a new blood that comes in. Would you rather have what Zach Taylor is doing with the Bengals, where we're running it back, continuity? Then you have the Bills, where it's like, we're just going to hire from within. We're going to elevate Joe Brady.
Also continuity.
Or you're going to go Lamar, and it's completely fresh. And you're saying, all right, you think the third part is the best chance to win this year, straight fresh? That, to me, can we at least wait and see and how it goes in the training camp and preseason and see if Lamar hits it off with Declan Doyle, who's never called plays before, and he's 29 years old and comes from the Chicago Bears, where he spent 1 year with Ben Johnson?
He's 29. Lamar's 29. I mean, absolutely. But I think we know he's a two-time MVP. I think we understand that he had a bad year. When a quarterback has a bad year, I get excited because I'm like, oh, he's got a chip on his shoulder now. And you know what he can do at full force. Yep. You know what he's able to do. Oh, he's quote-unquote had a bad year. He only played 12 games this year. That means he's going into the lab.
Okay.
He's got it.
Who's going into the lab?
Lamar. Again, when you have a year where you were disappointed in yourself, what do? You take it to yourself to make yourself better.
But
you had a knee injury, you had a hamstring injury, you had an ankle injury, had a toe injury, had a back injury. So the point that I'm making is that Lamar knows he wasn't 100%. Anybody who watched him move, knows he wasn't nearly 100%. This is really about him prioritizing his health, getting healthy. I think one of the biggest things that's going underreported, but this is the kind of stuff that we heard covering the league, is that players were a bit detached from John Harbaugh to some degree. And they went to Lamar Jackson to talk to him. And John Harbaugh basically gave, I'm not quoting anybody here, but based on what I was told, it was like, hey, I've been doing this a long time. You just go out there and play. I know what I'm doing. So the dismissiveness was when you saw the change in Lamar Jackson, where he just didn't seem all there compared to what he once was, which is the biggest reason why you saw, in my opinion, when you saw the owner, Steve Spiciotti, during the press conference, they said, if your field goal kicker had made the kick against the Steelers, would that have changed anything? He said, yeah, probably for about a week. In other words, John Harbaugh was gone no matter what. Now, why would the owner take that position? It just wasn't just because they started out 1-5. It wasn't just because they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the end of the regular season and then didn't make the playoffs. It was because, to some degree, you lost the team. And it's not to knock John Harbaugh, because obviously he's going to a new situation, and so certainly his voice could resonate. But when you've been there for 18 years and you've been with Lamar Jackson for 7.5, you do get to a point where your voice could ultimately get stale and a bit old. That is what transpired. And I think that's what we have to look at when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens, not about Lamar Jackson getting back in the lab. Lamar Jackson needs to be interested in being in the lab. And I think it's safe to say he is now more so than he was last season when John Harbaugh.
But wait, so who would you think would make the Super Bowl next? Who's next in line? Allen, Burrow, or Jackson?
I would say to you, I would probably say Allen, because I think that Joe Brady being the head coach, him being familiar, obviously, as the offensive coordinator, coaching Allen as the head coach now. I think with the pieces they have, and Brandon Beane having to prove himself, because he's needing to buffer that roster since Sean McDermott was essentially used as a scapegoat. The day this man gets fired, you not only get retained, but you get elevated, but y'all all lost together. I think that Brandon Beane will make some modifications and will prove it slightly. I think that's all it takes. I think there's more that's needed in Baltimore, even though they got a chance. I'm certainly not picking Cincinnati, not as long as Zach Taylor is there as the head coach and he's in charge of the defensive coordinator, coach of the defense. Hell no. Hell no.
I mean, Allen is the closest, right?
Listen,
Burrow.
I had Allen on the radio yesterday, and I did ask him about a couple of bad pass plays. Dalton Nix open. Obviously, Shaqiri bounced it to him. Here's the bottom line about Allen, to be fair. He left the field 27-23 with 2:40 to go in the game, and that defense on 3rd and 11 couldn't get Bo Nix off the field, gave up a 26-yard pass play to Sutton, who I could have thrown it to. Furthermore, if they called it the other way and it was a 50-50 play on the Cook's catch and didn't call an interception, the game is over, because they would have kicked the field goal and won the game. Thirdly, they scored 30 points in the game against the quote-unquote
Five
best
turnovers.
defense.
5 turnovers.
All right, fine,
Yeah,
but one of them was the play on the interception.
I know.
30 points in the game. When you score 30 points in the game against Denver and that defense, your defense has got to respond, and they did not do so. Let's be fair. Everybody wants to kill Allen left and right. He did this, he did that. He had no Mahomes, he had no Burrow, no Jackson. 5 turnovers, as you just said, the fumble before the half. Everybody kills Josh Allen. He left the field 27-23. Denver 3rd and 11 with 2:40 to go in the game. Make a stop. He punts. You have the tie. He's going to punt on 4th and 11. You get a first down, and Buffalo's playing the Patriots in a championship game. And they would have played the game on Monday, because they wouldn't have played in that snowstorm, because they wouldn't have had all those fans go. They would have played on Monday. So from that standpoint, I think Allen takes. No, Cam killed him.
Right.
And listen, he's a player. I'm not.
Right.
I think Allen gets a little too much abuse.
I think your diatribe there was incredibly profound and on point. The only issue that I have a problem with is when you said you could have thrown it to somebody, because we saw that made from half court.
Right.
You don't need to be bringing up trying to launch passes.
No.
Oh, you don't want to see it. You'll be
It's
so
bad.
You'll be embarrassed for me.
Hey, you know what? They say, people that can't do, coach, or people that can't do, sit behind the desk.
And I sit behind.
Well, that's a lie. That's
way.
a lie, because there's an abundance of people that have done it that want to sit behind the desk. So that's no longer true.
That's it.
That doesn't even count. Do you think Allen gets crushed as much as he's saying he is?
No, I mean, yes, absolutely. He's Buffalo Bills. I mean,
He's a stud.
He's the guy. He's an MVP.
But you were crushing him a little bit.
A little bit, because I mean, again, he's been a league MVP. You say these guys aren't in, and you look at it, you be like, all right, this is his one time to shine.
We used to say this about Peyton Manning, and guess what? Peyton Manning won, and he put it to bed. That's all Josh Allen has to do. He just got to do it.
I know.
He had a team to do it, and he had a coach to do it.
Right. A Super Bowl is a quarterback stat. You have a phenomenal quarterback. You got to win one.
Got to win one. All right, we are a day away and a few hours away, I guess, from the NBA trade deadline. We haven't talked about that in a minute, and that trade deadline is closing in quickly. Will Draymond Green move away?